leading up to this, like the last couple minutes, I've actually been feeling a little bit nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I understand. And let me reassure you, I hope. I have found that I can't see what people don't want me to see, or rather what they don't want to know.
Hmm.
So that's usually helpful.
Okay, yeah, that's
Um,
interesting to know. Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, I didn't know this at first, but what I've found is when I'm connecting with someone, it almost always happens where if they're talking about a loved one who's sick, if they want to know how much longer that person has, I have the number immediately. And if they don't want to know, I can't see much about the situation at all. Whereas, like I said, if they're open to it, that information, I even ask, it just comes to me. So,
Okay, that's good to know because I mean, part of this is like the things that I wanted some clarity around at the time that you had originally posted, and then we had to reschedule because of
yes.
flu and whatnot. Um, like the main thing I think I have a lot more clarity on at this
Oh,
point because it's been
good.
a couple months. So I was kind of like, well, now I don't know what's going to come up. So I just kind of
Mm-hmm.
sent a little prayer out into the universe this morning of, whatever is for my highest good. Um, and and certainly there are some things that I've felt more anxious about recently that I thought, well, I can certainly see if the guides have any words of wisdom. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully they do. And yes, I always have the intention, this is for your highest good. So back to that, what fits, fits. And if it doesn't, let it go. And my intention is to connect with the loving, kind, supportive clarity coming from the guides in the most, in the most gentle way. Yeah. And let's see if there's anything else. Oh, also, last thing I want to say is if we end up, so depending on what we're looking into, I can oftentimes see like, here's a possibility, there's a possibility, whatnot. But sometimes what your guides or coming from a soul level is like a potential path you could take that there's a lot of excitement about, you might not feel that excitement. So if you want to change directions in our conversation, in our time together, like you can, I don't want you to feel like you can't speak up and redirect. And also at any point, if you think, oh, I really want to ask XYZ, go for it. Cause I might, even though I'm psychic, I don't know what you want to know. So if you want to know, make sure you ask me.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll keep track of time. I've got paper and pen because sometimes I take notes. So if you see me looking away, and I also
Yeah.
periodically close my eyes throughout our time together.
Okay.
And so I like to start with a short guided meditation. You can keep your eyes closed or open, whatever your comfort level is. And I'll have mine closed. And just going to say a little prayer for no interruptions because my kids are not here today, but I hope nothing comes up that anybody interrupts us. So, all right, taking in a deep breath and releasing it whenever you feel comfortable. Taking in another deep breath and feeling yourself settling into your chair in whatever way feels relaxing and supportive. And if at any point you want to move to a more comfortable chair that feels more like a nice cozy hug or a cocoon or whatever, then feel free to do that. Or it might just be, I don't know if you've thought about, I don't know if you're in your office or not, but I'm getting this feeling of if you've thought about changing the chair in your office to a more comfortable one, then this is the message like, yeah, go do that. Be comfortable when you're at work.
In my home office, which is
Oh.
a 3 by 3 square foot of my bedroom between the bed and the wall, that I happen to have a nice background corner.
Yeah.
And this chair isn't horrible. But there's
Yeah.
only so much that one can fit in a 3 by 3
Yes,
square foot
that's
space.
true. Maybe pillows would be good.
I bet you anything my grandma is sending you that message.
Really? Was she all about comfort or setting up a
Oh
space?
my God, she's so funny. She is a chairperson
Oh
and
yeah.
she
It,
passed away this year and
oh,
she was always like very concerned about like is your posture going to be okay in that chair? Is that supportive enough for you? And like when she went to pick out a chair, it's like the whole thing.
yeah.
Uh,
It must be
Super
her coming
funny.
in because I never talk this much about chairs. And part of my brain was like, do you really want to start talking about the chair? And I'm like, it's coming up. I got to talk about the chair. Oh, thank you, Grandma, for talking about the chair. Oh, this is so sweet. She's saying she hopes that for the rest of your life, every time you're in a good chair or a bad chair, that you think of her with love and that she'll be loving you all along. So that is just so sweet. Yeah, I love that. Grandmas are cool in that way. Well, and again, this isn't necessarily coming from that, but I want to share. We have a home office, not for myself. This is my home office, but my husband has one that I just fixed up yesterday, and we've lived in this house for 3 years, and it's the first time that office felt really good. It's been doable, but maybe if you find that there's enough time that you are in this home office, maybe you do want to find a really cool chair that fits there. Yeah. And maybe one of those like hanging things that a plant could go in that actually hangs on the wall, so there is room for, anyway, it's up to you. That might not feel that important, but then again, sometimes it's nice to be extra comfortable when we're working from a space that isn't the normal working space. Okay. I don't know. Okay, so your grandma, I guess she wants to say a few things before she'll let me move on. I don't know if you have kids or loved ones that she's really all about, but she's showing me like you giving these people extra kisses from her and from you, and kind of, I mean, I'm sure you show the people that you love them, but she's just reminding you of that, of like showing them that you love them and that she loves you. Seeing if there's anything else she'd like to share. It doesn't exactly make sense to me, but she's talking about picking the best spot. I don't know if that relates to this whole chair thing that we're talking about, but I feel like it's more something different. I don't know if you're thinking about moving or getting another space where something is happening, but she's talking about picking the best spot. I'm also getting this feeling of like almost like something sticking in your throat. Know if it's when I don't think it's literal like food in your throat, but more like either getting choked up about something or something that you may want to be telling someone, but it's like you try to tell them and like the words just get stuck in your throat. So, as I'm sharing this to you, she's just showing me that she's wrapping her arms around you and that she's supporting you. And anything difficult that you have gone through or are going through or will go through, like she's always happy to be there, giving you that hug. And even if she doesn't know all the answers, like she just wants you to know that you can always call on her to give you that hug and make you feel that extra, I don't know if courage is the right word, but she has this unending commitment towards you that she really wants you to know about. And it's almost like she's telling me there's all these other things she could go do, and not that like her whole afterlife experience is just being there for you, but But that being said, she's like, there's all these other things I could do, but I'm always here for you. So it's kind of like, if you want to call on her, she'll be right there with you. That's the level of commitment she wants you to know that she has for you. And I get the sense of, I get the feeling that she has a concern that maybe you felt like people didn't have your back who you thought did, or that there've been moments where you kind of had to feel like you were going at something alone that was challenging. And so this is why she's really highlighting that even though she's not here physically, emotionally, none of her connection to you has stopped. She's always got your back and she's always right there supportive for you. Oh, yeah. Now she's being kind of funny. Okay. I don't know if this is the type of thing she would do, but now she's like, all right, now that we've done that, she's showing me like clinking teacups and being like, all right, now let's buck up and move on and just like get going with whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh, what a cool lady. Okay, I'm gonna see. I get the feeling that we could spend our whole time letting her talk. And I also get the feeling like maybe I should tell her thank you and we should see if there's anything else. But what do you feel like? What do you want?
I am curious about the the spot thing. Kind of makes sense. My
Yeah.
husband and I have been looking at building our own offices.
Ooh.
I'm currently employed, and he is currently leasing a space in his own business. And there's this beautiful lot of land right across from where he works now that faces mountains, and it really just, it feels like such a beautiful healing spot. And for the last, gosh, we're going on 9 months probably, we've been working on securing this land, getting approved for a loan to build buildings there for us. And we actually just finally got approval. I think it was last week, maybe the week
Wow.
before. And so it's only been like a week and a half that we've had. And that
Yeah.
was something that that I was kind of wanting clarity on, I think, when I signed up for this,
Yeah.
because we kept getting like even though we were approved by our small business association, we kept getting rejected by banks.
Mm.
And each bank had a
Wow.
different reason. And so it was starting to feel
Yeah.
like maybe we shouldn't be doing this. I'm not
Right.
sure. And I kept doing meditations and like future self, and future self just kept saying like, whatever happens, it's really not going to change the trajectory, but keep going,
Mm.
see what happens, play with it.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious about that, um, if that's
Yeah.
what it's related to. But still, like in the meantime, it takes a long time to build a building from the ground up.
Right. Yeah.
I've I've been thinking like, what the heck am I going to do between now and when I'm actually in this building?
Right.
And I'm feeling kind of anxious about telling my boss
Mm-hmm.
happening, so that like for
Yes.
over a year I have like held this in. And on multiple occasions I have tried to make appointments to meet with her, to tell her that
Mm-hmm.
it's probably going to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
she's last minute canceled on me and like
Mm.
avoided me. Like I think she
Mm-hmm.
kind of knows something's up.
Yeah. I'm
And
starting to get that sense too. Like she doesn't want to know
she's
in
yeah,
some
she's
ways.
avoidant.
Yes.
And so I've gotten to the point where it's like, well, I'm not going to waste my energy
Mm-hmm.
on someone who doesn't fully support me in this. So I'm just going
Right.
to keep it to myself until it's like really
Yeah.
time. But I also don't know that I can be there for a whole nother year
Mm-hmm.
energetically. Like I don't think it's a situation that is good for me. And so
Mm-hmm.
that there is a question in my mind about like, what do I do for the next year?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good, good. Yeah, let's look into that. And then I don't know if you really said about this, but I get the feel for the building that you two are creating. Are you gonna have an option for 2 or 3 other offices or whatever spaces that other people could be in? Because I feel that that could be a benefit, not like a huge amount of space, but like 2 to 3 other either people or businesses.
People, yes.
Okay.
We are both planning on hiring like more people as part of our, like we have two separate companies, but
Oh, great.
we would each be hiring. He has at least two, well, probably three hires on his end and
Excellent.
at least two on my end, but eventually probably three or four.
Wonderful. I like that. And I'm getting the sense too of, I don't know if the way that either you work with those people or that you plan to work in the space has a feeling of like incubator stuff, but I'm feeling this feeling of almost like either you or him, the way that you work with people is you kind of help nurture them, incubate, and then some of them might not stay forever. But it's a good thing because that's also what you're doing as they're working with you. You're helping incubate so then they can launch out. Yeah. Does that?
So that's interesting. I mean, I've kind of like wondered about what is the leadership role that I will have with my employees, knowing how I've been treated as an employee. And I would always want my employees to feel free to grow their gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And if they feel they need to launch and spread them with the world, absolutely. But on
Mm.
the other end of incubator, it's very interesting. So I'm a fertility doctor. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
I just, you know, what I do with my
That
patients
fits.
is
Yeah.
very much an incubator role in many ways too. So that's kind of funny.
That is funny. Mm. Yeah, I love that. If this is a little bit of a sidebar here, but I know that with fertility and you know way more than I know about this element of it, that people can have like a heaviness of like, is it going to happen? What's going to happen? Disappointment, all the emotions and all that. And I'm getting this feeling of the ways in which it might not even ever be expressed to those people, but with you and your partner in this space, if there can be almost a humor and a lightness of like, this is the eggy room, or this is the incubation room, or something that makes you feel that elevated sense. And again, to me, it feels almost like humorous. That energy will feel very nice for the people coming in because, and again, like it's a little bit of a delicate thing of not like you're necessarily cracking jokes with your patients, although maybe you are, but you having that a little bit of a sense of levity and lightness and this cocoony incubation feeling about it, I feel like is going to, for some of them, help them have the feeling of, okay, I can relax. I can, I can have the fertility that I want. I can get pregnant because um it's not even just your skill level, but it's your level of, again, like I say, there's a little bit of like levity and joy and happiness and playfulness. And again, I don't even know if they'll sense this or if this is just something for you, but I feel that that's an underlying thing, that the more little ways that you can maintain a sense of like joy and playfulness or pleasure with how you feel about that space, it's going to ripple out and make the people feel really good and give them better results too. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so let me see here about you and the space that you're currently in with your boss. Not that I'm fanning myself because it just feels intense. Not that I consciously think that your employer has set it up this way, but I get the sense of like prison and lockdown, like rooms with bars, and like it just feels very uncomfortable in terms of confinement. And like I said, like prison bars on the walls or just like boxes of confinement. Yeah, so I'm not surprised. And this might just be how it feels to you energetically. I'm not surprised that you don't want to stay there for a year longer. So I don't know how it works in terms of like if your plan when you're in the new place is you're your own boss and that's your own thing. But what I'm sensing is there's a possibility that before that space is created, you might go work in someone else's space. Maybe it's acupuncturist or someone else who does different things than you, but also complementary audience and they're complementary type clients, patients, and that could be a possibility that feels better than staying where you are. And they, after you're done working in their physical space, it might just be that y'all have kind of a referral type of relationship. And I also think about there's this woman, what is her name? I think it's Kate Northrup. She has this book called Do Less, but in it, I think she talks about egg time and your cycle. But I keep on getting this phrase like get eggy with it, like they get jiggy with it, but get eggy with it, of of letting the eggs guide you for, and I feel like this fits with the whole chair thing too. It's like pick your spot. It's like, where does the egg want to be? And like a cushiony, wonderful, inviting place that feels good, not the prison box structured place. So it really feels that where you're physically moving next, it's where you're going to be intuitively led based on the eggy feelings. And I don't know if like all the logistics of paperwork and licensing or bringing clients or all of those ins and outs, but I do think exploring, if you're open to it, working with another practitioner like an acupuncturist who also maybe works with fertility might be a nice place of a supportive environment that's not where you were, but where you're also still building for your future of the location you're going to. I'm imagining at some point, whenever you say you're leaving, some patients may want to come with you, or maybe they can, or I don't know how that all works, but I get the sense of it doesn't feel like the logical mind being like, what is the best way to do this, is going to be very effective at making it feel like a good transition, as much as getting eggy with it and going where that goes.
That's a funny term. I like it. Well, so that's interesting. There's, in terms of like parallel or complementary populations or patients, we only have 3 main IVF clinics in our city, and one of them is very suddenly closing.
Oh, wow.
And there's 2 offices left. One I very, very rarely refer to because they just have some very weird dynamics between owner management, and just it's a no for most of my patients. And the
Yeah.
other has overall been pretty good, but the doctor is in many ways just like kind of set in his rhythms, and unless you suggest something, he won't necessarily think outside of the box about something on his own. But they, in overall, as an entire staff, they're really open-minded and welcoming and wonderful. And when we all found out that this other big clinic was closing, I happened to be there the following week to do acupuncture on a patient who was getting their embryo transferred. And I got to talking to one of their patient coordinators, and she was like, she's like, I wonder what it would be like if we brought you in here sometimes. And I was like, oh, we should talk about it after the holidays. get curious about how that could support people, because I think it could be really helpful for the whole patient population because we
Mm-hmm.
complement each other. I don't do the IVF part, but I can do everything else.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's
so
great.
that's one thing I'm very curious about, but until 2 weeks ago would have never, I don't think, been an option or crossed my mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, I like that. I feel like that sounds good. And it's like, even if the one doctor is maybe not checking all the boxes, it feels like a better place overall that meets your needs and also feels happier and more engaging of a place to be in. So that's
Yeah,
really good.
their work family, it's a very family run business. Like, you've got the owner and his sister, they're co-owners. His son runs the embryology lab. His niece is the practice manager, and most, like, a lot of their longer term employees have been there for 17 years. So
Wow.
it has a family feel to it.
Yeah, that's really nice. Oh, I like that. Okay, so I'm going to close my eyes and see anything else that's coming up. And feel free, if you have another question that is sparking in your mind, to feel free to ask it. Oh, but before you do, I just want to say, and regarding the sticking in your throat and the communicating with your boss, I get this sense, like I said before, if she's not ready to hear the information and is a little bit avoiding it, what if you take out the responsibility that you have to be communicating this with her? And I understand that you want to give her as much notice, it feels like, as necessary, but I also feel like, what if that's not your responsibility? What if at the end of the day she's going to get as little notice as possible, because that's how the lines of communication are set up? And it doesn't mean you're not still a great person, but if the lines of communication aren't open, then do you need to, like, worry about it or belabor over it, or do you need to just let it be what it is and you just focus your attention on where are the spaces and the places that it's easier to feel good about? It's easier to follow that eggy feeling, and knowing that at the end of the day it's all going to work out one way or another. And yeah, maybe you don't need to worry about how she knows. Okay. I'm getting this sense of, for you and maybe for your partner, well, one, I don't know if you've celebrated that, steps are moving with this whole building, but I'm getting two things. One, a feeling of like busting out some champagne and seeing the bubbles that lift up, or whatever liquid beverage of celebration that you prefer. And also this feeling of really pausing to be focused on and really grateful for all of the people that you have helped. I'm sure that you do this sometimes, but I really feel this sense of taking a moment, and maybe it's when you're celebrating about the building, but maybe it's even its own separate celebration of pausing and acknowledging all of the people you helped with fertility, all of those happy eggs that are now children, and all of that whole piece of it. And not just the children aspect, obviously that's great, but also these women and men, their health was improved, their communication, their relationship, all of the intangibles that you brought to those situations and relationships. So sometimes when people are very successful and driven, which you may or may not be, but I feel like you are, sometimes we get used to just keeping on advancing, but not really noticing, wow, here's the effects of the past 3 years of me doing this, or the past 5 years. So celebrating, even if you just start with celebrating this year of all of the people you've impacted, but I really do feel like looking back and kind of imagining, and maybe you do this in a meditation, of all of those people, all of the children, all of the parents, all the little happy eggs sending you their love, sending you their gratitude, sending you their thank yous, and you feeling grateful as well. I feel that that could really, it could be really nice. And I don't know if you spend enough time in gratitude of feeling all of the impact that you've had, the positive impact, because, when the next patient comes in, then you're working on helping them, but really reveling in all of that joy and health and family that you've helped facilitate. Is, to me, it just feels like it's going to make you even brighter and happier, and also draw more people to you as well.
You are right. I don't spend enough time there.
Well,
But even just taking this 30 seconds to imagine, even just like over the last year, like, yeah, that is significant.
yeah, yeah. Oh, and who knows, maybe your partner too has his own way of like being super excited and focused on the next goal. And so maybe that's the thing too. Maybe you say once a month, or at least once a year, we're going to get together and we're going to celebrate our years and all we've done. And, you're breaking new ground, literally and figuratively. So both of you enjoying and celebrating that impact and those accomplishments feels really nice. And it feels like a really nice habit or ritual to have together that will also, sustain you when there's times like there was when you're applying to get the loan and it keeps on getting turned down. Like, there might be other little snafus that come up in the building process. I mean, hopefully not, but a delay or whatever. And so really anchoring in those celebratory moments feels like that'll be a nice thing to remember if there's a hiccup that's annoying down the road.
So I know we're getting close on time, but I wonder if there's any
Yeah.
insight on the name for my practice.
Oh, the name.
We've
Okay.
known this has been coming for a year now, and I have no idea.
Okay. I'm going to ask and see. Getting a few things. I don't know if any of them are the names yet, but I mean, like, I feel like the incubation station sounds way too ridiculous, but I do keep on getting this thing of station. But I also see this vision. When I was talking about you and your husband celebrating before, I was picturing just the two of you. But then I had this sense of you and him in a restaurant celebrating, and your server saying something that just sparks an idea. And so I don't know if it's that, or if it's that when you and him both, but especially you, do this longer time of celebrating and acknowledging and feeling all of your impact, it feels like the perspective that you'll have then is going to make it easier to connect to the name in a very good way, like in a very clear way, because, and again, when I was talking before about joy and playfulness and all of that, I don't necessarily think that the name is going to be playful or like over the top joyful. I mean, unless that speaks to you, but perhaps the process of coming about the name might feel a little bit whimsical, silly, that type of thing. So I'm going to see if I see anything else about that. Yeah. And now I'm getting the thing about the restaurant might be like, this expectation that the universe is, or your spirit guides are just going to serve you the name on a plate, and that it's going to be really clear at some point. But you'll be able to see that with clarity when you're in a space of acknowledging all this impact that you've had, and feeling that. And I used the word incubate a few times. If that doesn't, if that feels like too weirdly scientific or whatever, you might also see, like, are there other terms that feel like that connect with people? And another thing they're also telling me is, for the next like 6 or so patients that you have, start noticing the words that they're saying, especially as you're getting to like the successful part of the process. Yeah, there's this sense that I also get a sense of, like, when a creative person is creating something, you're like mentally kind of casting this wide receptive net to be getting in information. So it's like you're listening to your next 6 client appointments to hear, oh, what are phrases that come up a lot, or words that come up a lot. You're doing a celebration meditation, you're doing a celebratory dinner with your husband, and in each of these you're noticing, oh, what's coming up a lot, or maybe not even a lot, but like, oh, this person said this word, and then at the dinner, there was this thing on the menu, or that the waiter said, that spoke to me. So it feels like all of these little moments are going to give input that is going to hopefully make you have this, I don't know if it'll be an aha moment, or if in a playful time you'll settle in on it more. But that to me feels like the name could come about that way.
Better
Oh,
than
hold on,
nothing.
hold on. Sorry. Now I feel like your grandmother's coming back in. She just wanted me to highlight again this whole thing about pick your spot, and the whole like cozy chair vibe, that maybe it's something like that doesn't even specifically speak to fertility, but speaks to like that cozy nesting, when you're in a chair that feels good kind of thing. So yeah, and maybe also you go to the spot and like think about the feelings and see if anything speaks to you. But yeah. Well, for the viewers, I know you've said a little bit, maybe that gave them an indicator, but can you help them know, how would you evaluate or assess our time together? And did you get information or insight that was of a benefit?
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't know what to expect because we had postponed. So the biggest thing I needed clarity on was kind of already clear. But having my grandma come through, just, it meant so much. This is the first holiday that I've ever had without her. So honestly, that was worth its weight in gold. And
Mhm.
everything else was just like the cherry on top, like getting some clarity around not having to logicize my way out of where I currently am, but
Mm.
being able to trust that the feeling, like that gut feeling, or that, in this case, the womb feeling, probably
Yes.
will
Oh,
be
yeah.
what guides me in the right direction, and will guide my patients too, because that ultimately, I think, when I learn these things better, I'm able to teach these things better. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
parallels there that are helpful, and reminding me to celebrate and pause and be grateful, because when you describe, like, yeah, I would say I do tend to just keep driving forward without pausing very often.
Mm.
So that's
Yeah.
all really helpful, and thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And all those families you're helping, that is just so beautiful. That's an incredible thing. I love that you're changing their lives and all that you're doing. So, and thank you for our time together. I'm so excited to tell you about the Talk to the Trees, written by myself, Rachel Strivelli. Talk to the Trees is a short book about connecting to the wisdom of the trees, actually literally talking to them, metaphorically talking to them. What do trees know about love, family, and connection, and dealing with hardships of life? You can buy it at the places linked below. I would love it if you check it out, share it with a friend, buy it for a friend, and spread the word.